Ladies and gentlemen, we know y'all wasn't waiting on us. We know what y'all came here to see. We have a special guest in the building, Mr. Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. Mike, welcome to the Golden Boot. Glad to have you on. And he got on the police shirt. Look at him. So, Mike,
I'm going old school for you guys today.
All right.
Hey, I love that band. Excellent band.
So Mike, I'm gonna go ahead.
And by the way, let me give you a little history on this.
Okay.
A lot of guys don't remember. You're showing your age, but the PMAC used to host a lot of great concerts. Great concerts. The best concert I ever saw in my life was the Police at the PMAC.
Wow.
So I love it. So you didn't like Garth Brooks?
But that wasn't at the PMAC.
That is true.
Garth Brooks is a great entertainer, and that was a fantastic event. But is he a guy that I'm listening to his music on rotation? No.
Gotcha.
But as far as going to an event and people watching and having fun, that was a great day.
So, Mike, I'm gonna go ahead and say it now. I told somebody the other day, we were talking about it. I think I said it on Blake's show. There are 4 great Mikes in all the well, I ain't gonna say all the sports, but you got Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson, what was the other? Michael Jordan, and then we got Mike Scarborough.
That's the Mount Rushmore of Mikes right there, man.
Now I did see y'all getting a little deal last week. Who was it? Was it y'all comparing Chris Brown and Michael Jackson?
No,
someone was trying to say Chris Brown was better than Michael Jackson.
They you know what? I wouldn't doubt that in spaces.
Disrespect.
But
it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Brown.
So Chris Brown and Michael Jackson. Well, Daniel, since you were about to go there, you got Beat It and Beat Her. We'll stop. Oh, go ahead. Hold up. Let's go ahead and.
I see. Blake showing.
The views and opinions expressed in the Golden Boot podcast are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Golden Boot podcast as a whole.
My bad. I shouldn't have went there.
That was definitely Pooh.
that was me. My bad, everybody. But Blakey is calling you out. Mike. He said that the last police. Time police played at the PMAC was 1962.
Well, he's a little off, but about 2 decades.
All right. So, Mike, I asked you on your show. It is July. It is literally the 3rd day of July. Panic amongst fans over this recruiting is at an all-time high. And I know you mentioned on your show. Have you ever seen this much panic amongst fans this early in the recruiting cycle?
I think the panic. Look, there's a bunch of ways to look at it. If you're going to sit there and go down the line and you're going to look at a top 10 list from whatever recruiting service, top 10 you want to look at, and you want to look at Arch Manning and you want to look at Eli Holstein and you're hearing about Jaden Osbury and Tackett Curtis has a finalist and LSU's not in it. I get it. And Derek Williams, of course, doing what he did last Monday. I don't think Derek Williams is over, but even if it is, I think Derek Williams is maybe the one that you legitimately, if you're an LSU fan, would make you concerned. But at the same time, I go back to last year when you lost 3 wide receivers in the state of Louisiana. And even though Aaron Anderson was the guy that I just couldn't stop oohing and ahhing about all season long, and going back to the year before that, that's just never going to be a position at LSU where I think you ever get worried. But like I said on my show the other night, if you lose the Lance Hurd, then I'll bring the party tray to your pity party.
Right. I think too right now, Mike. I think LSU is just going after needs. You know, we're replacing a lot of guys next year off the defensive line, linebackers, safeties, and right now they're getting them. You know,
and see, and Daniel, that's the other part of it. this staff, first of all, they come in, and let me back up. When your coach is making $100 million, no one wants to hear that the state's down.
Yeah.
Or that there's multiple positions that are not going to meet your needs. So you're going to have to go out of state and fight your peer group for the best of the best that everybody wants. No, if your coach is making $100 million, you better have a top 10 class that first year.
Yeah.
Period. Don't come in at 13 or 14. And that's, I don't know that that's unreasonable. But is it? But let's say hypothetically the class is 12th in the country. Well, that's based off high school kids.
Right.
You know, we're gonna be sitting here next February or March, and it's the combination of the transfer portal and what they did with high school kids.
Yeah.
And then there's some kids that come from the portal that you're shocked that they left where they were at because of maybe they were a first or second team all conference selection in a Power 5 conference. You know, is it going to go beyond just getting kids from Florida Atlantic and UL Lafayette and Oklahoma State? I mean, to get Bernard Converse, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but is there more guys like him than pilfering kids from the Sun Belt and Coosa and some of that? So, but you know, it was. I remember we had our sit-down interviews with each of the coaches, and they let all the media go do round robin at tables with each assistant coach after signing day. And I sat down with Jamar Kane. I got him towards the end, so I was just me and him, and it dawned on me right when I sat down that he was going to have a tough go of it. You know, because there's no defensive tackles or ends in Louisiana for the class of 23. There's not even a guy that I can point to and say, you know, if this guy has a good half senior year, or maybe this is a guy that could get an offer. I'm not even seeing any of those. So now he's got 2 defensive ends committed, and he's got a couple going down tomorrow. So it's a big July 4th weekend for Jamar Kane.
Yes, it is. Let me ask you this. I know you mentioned the $100 million contract makes some fans, you know, not care about or want to hear some of these, you know, excuses, if you want to call them that. But how much did this coaching staff have to clean up and repair relationships with, you know, high school coaches and players around the state, like Tackett Curtis, for example? You know what I mean? With, you know, the relationship with Ed Orgeron and his high school coach wasn't great.
But here's the thing on that, Ant. Blake Baker was absolutely cordial. I don't know where Blake Baker did anything wrong on Orgeron's staff.
Yeah,
and I mean, maybe you guys know there's a one here or there, and say what you want about Orgeron, and there's good and bad, and I think a lot of it can be piling on with him. But I'm unaware of high school coaches not liking Ed Orgeron. I mean, you can fault him for a lot of things, but you know. I know that they made phone calls every week to high school coaches and wished them good luck in their weekend games. And I don't know if there's any relationship problems there, but
gotcha.
But the issue with Tackett Curtis does predate Brian Kelly and his staff. That, you know, I remember like it was yesterday. It was last spring, and everybody, the big offers were coming all around the country, and LSU was the last one. In fact, LSU didn't want to offer him unless he came to camp in June, but he ended up getting one in May anyways. And so, of course, you also have to remember last June was the first, because of COVID, where kids could start going out.
Yeah.
And so last year, Tackett and others went and used that because they had been cooped up and they weren't able to go on unofficial or official visits the year before. So they all went out and used the month of June to finally get out and see some schools. And that's what Tackett did. So, you know, so now it's, you know, what have I been saying? And I feel like I'm picking on Tackett, but it's like, you know, is he going to come to camp? You know, after a while, it's like if they don't come to your school and you invite them to things and they don't come, after a while, you're just like, you know what, man? It's kind of like trying to convince someone to be your friend. After a while, you're like, man, I don't need to beg anybody to be my friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you got the goods, man.
Let me let me. You mentioned what Jamar Cain's doing, and the commits he just got, and some to come. I don't want you to give away too much of your info, but how many players do you see committing over the next few weeks to LSU?
I think my predictions are like a lot of them out there. I think everybody thinks LSU's about to clean house.
Yeah.
You're going to get 3 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
And so Ashton Stamps from Rummel.
Okay.
And he's a kid who can play corner or safety, and he'll start things off at 1:00. So,
Hey, Mike, and can you elaborate a little bit more on Ashton Simpson from Rummel?
yeah, Ashton Stamps. He's just, he's a 6'1", 170 to 175 pound. He might be getting close to 180. And he can play multiple spots in the defensive backfield. They like his flexibility. I think that's going to be a nice one for tomorrow. And so, but then you're also okay. You add him to the current, that'll be the 9th commitment. And so you start saying you're looking at DBs and safeties, and what does that mean for Jordan Matthews? And look, there's he got the offer from LSU, committable offer a few weeks back. That's another one where does he come around and because this staff wanted to evaluate more and see more, and that's always going to be an issue for LSU with Louisiana kids. I don't think that's ever going to go away. For every Anthony Freak Johnson that gets an offer in the 9th grade, there's going to be some players that don't get offered until May or June after they've completed their junior year.
Right.
But maybe Florida and Clemson and Georgia and Texas A&M have offered months before. They have the luxury of saying, well, we don't want you to commit yet. LSU doesn't have that luxury with a Louisiana kid. Yeah. If you offer a Louisiana kid, you better be ready to take that commitment. You can't play around and say, well, we want you to come to camp. And that's one thing I did not like about the previous staff. They extended offers that weren't committable. And, sometimes I talk to parents and they'll say, what are some advice you can give? Particularly parents where neither one were an athlete or it's an only child and they didn't go through it. And maybe they're at a school that doesn't produce a lot of, it's like when they offer you a scholarship, ask them if it's a committable offer. If you want to commit today, will they take it? That tells you what it's worth.
Yeah, how they really feel about you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, we got a question from the chat from C. King. He says, is LSU really a player with Jaylen Brown?
The receiver?
Yes, that's the if I'm not mistaken, the kid that's literally
South Florida?
On the doorsteps of Miami.
Yeah, that's Miami.
Yeah. Okay, and then
I have a go ahead, Pooh.
No, we got another one from Miss Phyllis Balfour. I hope I'm saying that name right. It's ask Mike, can LSU possibly flip Ricky Collins?
I know Joe Sloan has recruited Ricky Collins for months, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, and I have a quick question for you. It's kind of going back to the Tackett Curtis deal, but how has recruiting changed whenever you bring in NIL? Because a lot of people are saying that our relationships are those dead now. Now that money, of course, money has always been involved, Mike, and we know that, but now it's literally on the table now. How important it is to still have those relationships.
Well, you want to have the whole package.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't want it to be where, your staff is full of jackasses, but you're giving the most money.
Yeah.
You want it all. You want to have a staff that relates to the players and staff members that talk about the players as human beings and are interested in the fact that they like to bass fish, whatever it is. So you want great facilities. You want a staff that has good personalities and charisma. You want staff that can coach. You want great facilities. You want to be in the SEC. And then you want to have the NIL dollars that can match anybody in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And
Mike,
so
do you believe that LSU has those NIL dollars to match anyone in the country?
I really believe, let's say hypothetical, that if LSU didn't have Walker Howard on the bench,
Mhm.
and let's say Walker Howard wasn't there, didn't exist, and you had Miles Brennan with his amount of eligibility left, Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, this would absolutely be a year where you needed to nail down one of the national quarterbacks.
Right.
And if all the national quarterbacks that were out there, whichever one you want to name, and the going price tag was, I'm just going to make it up, say 6 to 9 million, 6 to 10. I think LSU would be there.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I think now the unfortunate thing about that is that the way it's going to be going forward for you? When we look back 5 years from now, and we're saying that's how it is. Quarterbacks are getting this amount,
Mhm.
and the right guard that was a 3-star out of Beaufort, Georgia, is getting a nice lease on an F-150.
Yeah.
Is that how? What are we walking into? And all this stuff about. I mean, I can't. I know y'all do it. You can't go a day without someone saying something's got to be done, or when are they going to pass rules? Man, it's over. There ain't no rules. I mean, the only way that could really do it, and it would probably end up in the players cutting their nose off to spite their face, would be if they unionized.
Right.
But my only thing.
But if you unionize, there's more players that are going to be the have-nots than the haves.
Yeah.
Right.
Your quarterback's going to get the big paydays, and then there's going to be other positions, deep snappers, middle linebacker, whatever the priority you want to put on them. And then all of a sudden, but there's more of those than there are the quarterbacks. So if you want to even distribute or put a salary cap, the sure way to do it is to unionize.
Well,
because then all of a sudden college football becomes a mini NFL.
But my only problem with that is, and I agree with you, but if you unionize, and who do you do a collective bargaining agreement with? Because this money isn't coming from the schools. This money is coming from boosters in a sense. So the money they'd have to do some kind of profit sharing deal with the TV networks or something like that.
If I want to call Jack Besh up and say, Jack, I want to do a Tiger Bait Live with you, and I'm going to give you an obscene amount of money, that transaction between Jack Besh is absolutely nobody's business.
Right.
Exactly.
And either he or me could sue somebody if they try to intervene and tell us what we could and couldn't do.
Right. Thanks to that new law,
And,
right?
and we would be right. It's
Yeah.
capitalism.
Yeah.
To me, it's no different. I mean, you can go back to when I was young, and you had Chris Everett and all these tennis players at 15 years old winning Wimbledon, making money and turning pro. It's no different.
Right.
And so that's kind of the flip, but then you can turn around and you can see where it's turning off a lot of people.
Right.
And I can tell you, talking to some guys that have the means and are big, heavy money people for college football and the TAF, it's turned a lot of those guys off. I think it gets to the point with some of them where they're like, you know what, I'm not enjoying this anymore.
Right. Okay.
I say it all the time, and I was talking to someone today. If you go from 5 million in outlay of dollars is a big booster to 8 million, does that extra $3 million you spent make you any happier?
Right.
What does it do for you personally?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this right quick, Pooh. What happens? Because I know a lot of people are saying, well, hey, a lot of those guys may within a year or two be in the transfer portal. So what happens whenever you sign those contracts, those players sign those contracts and they have to pay the money back to those universities? You know
It's
what I'm
not
saying?
coming
But
from.
It's
It's
not
not
come from the
coming from
school.
the
well,
university.
my apologies. Not the universities, but whoever, the boosters, whoever provided them with the NIL
Well,
deals.
that's the
I
What
think
do
that,
you
I
that's
think
the
that's gonna I
look.
think that's gonna be a case by case because it depends
Yeah,
on what the contract
Oh
says.
yeah, are we going to see players with collection agencies,
Yeah,
and are we going to
that's what I'm
see
saying. Yeah,
businesses defaulting on contracts, and
Mm.
you know,
right.
well, see,
Because I
you know,
mean,
the one
hey,
nobody talks about is taxes. You know what I mean? Like, do these kids have someone in place to make sure that they are doing everything by the book when it comes to the IRS?
but that's
most
1099.
okay too.
universities.
That's
Yeah,
a part of life. You
right.
know, a lot of kids come out of high school now that don't know how to
Mhm.
you know balance their checkbook. That's okay. They're starting early. They're going to learn. You know,
Right.
They're gonna learn with a lot more money than I did.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know that's right.
You got
Hey, Mike, we got two questions that are pretty much the same thing, and I put up one. Basically, is asking about the removal of the scholarship restriction and how that will affect this class, and also will LSU take more risks now?
Well, look, what were we saying for months? What's going on with those two spots that LSU didn't use?
yeah.
Well, that's two more you can add towards the 85.
Mm.
Mm,
You know, it's like for next year.
yeah.
So, again, I'm just wondering if, and that's the other part of the hand wringing of LSU fans getting a little anxious about the recruiting class. And now with 8 commitments there, inside the top 40 I've seen out there. You
But
know, is it going to be where is it another year of heavy portal?
yeah,
Is it because of what's out there? Do you say, okay, Louisiana's not giving me this at this position, so and the guys that we really need out of state, there's so much recruiting pressure on them, and that kid's in the state of Ohio, and his parents were both Buckeyes. Is it easier for them to say, you know what, at that position, it's just better for us to go to the portal rather than reach on a 3-star at that position? Let's get us a guy who's got 2 or 3 years left of eligibility, and he played darn well at Pitt. Whatever. I'm just,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So
Well,
let me.
go ahead.
How do you see this class finishing? You don't got to put a number on there, but do you think it'll be similar to last year's class where they do what they can, like you just mentioned with the high school, and fill the plugs with transfers, or do you think that they can get enough of high school guys to where they can just
well,
go after
I
the
mean,
top
look,
talent in the portal?
for the perception standpoint of it, you want to be in the top 10.
Yeah,
You want to be there. But is that necessary? If you're 12 or 13, does it matter if your haul in the portal is just crazy? You know,
but not only that, you
um,
actually have the guys you actually need.
yeah.
You know, instead
But
of
Brian Kelly does, and it's the right way that you prefer to build your program with high school kids.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why I was going with the question. Do you think they can fill enough holes, in the roster with high school guys to where they can just go get the top talent? Oh, let's go get that good wide receiver or whatever the case may be in the portal instead of
Yeah.
trying to fill needs in the portal.
Um, Obviously, Jamar Cain's well on his way at the end of the day tomorrow. And so then the next guy who needs to make a run like that is Brad Davis.
yeah,
Um, so, but how does Brad Davis get it done? Is it 3 high school kids and 2 portal kids?
yeah.
And then who uses that 85 new rule to really transform their position the most? Which one where we see a total transformation at a position in 1 year? And is there any position on the team, if you really look at it, that you need to do that with?
Would you say the DB room, considering how many guys you could be losing after next year? You know, your whole secondary, starting secondary, is pretty much draft
Yep.
eligible or out of eligibility.
Right. So is that, you've got the DBs and of course Stamps tomorrow and others, still out there.
Do you
But
take
then,
five DBs?
but then you also need maybe another 4 or 5 transfer portal DBs.
That's where I was
Yeah.
going with. Do you take like 5 high school guys and 3 or 4 transfer DBs also
Yeah,
to make sure you got somebody who you can play next year?
exactly. And then and then there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to wait to see what LSU looks like this football season. The DBU deal is still the brand. And Coach Steeples is obviously very well liked.
Right.
And, the kids I talk to absolutely adore him. Coach Cooks, same thing. Those guys, I don't think they're going to have any issues.
All right. Hey, Mike, let me ask you this, and then we'll kind of shift to outside the LSU footprint. But are there any areas of concern for you as far as recruiting on we need to get someone in this position? Not necessarily a particular kid, but we need to get this position looked at before we move on.
Well, I want to see, look, Coach Davis obviously had a hell of a June with official visitors. And not only that, guys who came unofficially in June and throughout the spring. I really like the direction of where that's heading with the current personnel. But once he starts getting some shoes to drop, and I was blown away by Zalance Hurd at camp. I just when I walked in that indoor facility on that Friday and got a look at him, I was just, I said the last week on somebody's show where it's like, you walk in there and you're like, there's 600 kids. How long does it take me to pick them out? I wasn't 3 steps in the indoor facility and I knew which one was him. I mean, and he seemed like he was taking coaching real well. And I think LSU's in a great spot for him based on things that I picked up that day and since then.
Yeah.
You just can't. That's the one you can't let get away. I'm naming names but I'm not slighting anybody. But you don't lose as Zalance Hurd, but you can absorb Shaz Preston and Kendrick Law.
Understood.
And that's not a shot at them because I wonder if one day those guys might come back.
Yeah.
2 very good athletes.
Why are you lying to people on this on here, bro?
I was going to say I thought he was 3-1 great, but
you know he's a 3-1 great.
Mike. So I said we'll shift outside of the.
Y'all want to crack on some 985? Is Blake still in here?
Hey, so it came out.
By the way, when I crack on 985, I forget that 985 stretches all the way south of Morgan City and Patterson and Houma. When I think of 985, I think Mandeville North, Hammond, Kentwood, Amy. Yeah.
Move this man. Tomatoes.
I see him.
But hey, Mike. So it was announced earlier this week about the USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. Then it came out teams like Oregon, Washington, I think Arizona State, Utah. Some of the, pretty much the rest of what's left in the pacifier conference that they're looking to possibly join. What do you think about the quote unquote future of college football?
Well, you see that happening right now, and you think about years ago how sacred the Rose Bowl was. What does that do to the blue bloods?
Yeah.
And anybody who's ever been held a position on the Rose Bowl committee or whatever.
Right.
It's funny you say that. We had a guy from Miami defending Mario Cristobal. We were like, he didn't win the big games. He was like, he won the Rose Bowl. He won the Rose Bowl. And he literally said to everybody, he won the Rose Bowl. And it's like, but
I think there's an age group, and depending on where you grew up, where you just think the Rose Bowl is Of course, down here we think we maybe we could do the same thing with the Sugar Bowl, but we don't go crazy like they do.
Right.
No, but I mean, if we're being honest, how important to that LA market is the Rose Bowl?
But
You know,
but let me
has
ask
it
you
lost
this:
some of its luster?
I think the whole thing about it though is what's going to happen with Notre Dame. I mean, are they finally forced to go full hog in the ACC?
Bingo. And if they don't go to the ACC, what happens to Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and schools like that? Do they try to jump to the SEC? And do you end up having two conferences basically named ESPN and Fox? You know,
And again,
You already have that technically.
how powerful does this make Sankey?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody more powerful than him in college football?
No, he's already threatened to have his own playoff.
yeah, his boss Nick Saban.
When you think about it, I brought this up a while back. When have you, not in my lifetime or when I've been paying attention, has the SEC had a weak commissioner? I mean, since Roy Kramer, they've been all, just total bosses.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to go do what he did and get Oklahoma and Texas, that basically
Power move.
now you can, and then to say nothing about what he did, saying no, we're playing football through COVID,
Right.
and the whole national media getting on him about it. That dude has been a boss through everything, but his legacy is obviously written by going and taking Texas and Oklahoma away.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now we wait to see what the 9-game schedule is going to be and how that's going to play out, and we'll see.
Ryan makes a good point. He's jockeying for the NCAA job.
I don't know that he wants that. I think he's got the best job.
May not be
The
much of
NCAA job is a terrible job.
My bingo. That was my question. How good of a
Yeah,
job
so
is
it's
the
like,
NCAA
dude,
job right now?
think about how bad they ricked Mark Emmert.
Hmm.
Mark Emmert isn't a dumb guy.
Well, not just
Right.
that, but how much longer is the NCAA going to be?
That was my point.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the SEC his position as the SEC commissioner could be bigger than Mark Emmert's position in 5 years.
Yeah, because the reason why Mark Emmert retired and the reason why everybody was getting after him was because he had no power.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted him to do something. Well, he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I agree.
But the guy who can do something is the SEC boss.
Mm.
Yeah, there you go, Dandy. That's true.
All right, Mike. I got two questions for you, and then and thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem, man. Happy 4th, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I got a
likewise.
question also. I got one more.
I'll let you go ahead, Daniel, because it
so-
looks like it's all over your head.
Funny guy. Hey, Malik Benson, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, been digging on that. Is that Alabama or is it Georgia? I don't think LSU.
You don't think so?
But I know that's one that Coach Hankton, really would have liked.
Yeah.
That's the
But he came for the visit, and
Yeah,
it
JUCO
got
wide
quiet.
receiver.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, go right there.
But he would love that, but that's a guy right there. You're talking about an older, and he's a guy that they think, could have. He's a stud, man.
Yeah.
Huh?
Hey, I got one question too, Pooh, but you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm gonna shift to baseball real quick. Ask a quick baseball question.
All right, last football question. Who's the guy in this class that could end up being the Jordan Jefferson, the Jack Bech, the guy that some fans just see as the last minute guy in the class, but ends up actually making an impact.
You want to say Louisiana?
Yeah.
I think everybody's sleeping on Kai Preem.
Kai Print. Oh, okay. Kai Print. Yeah. Do you think LSU's in a good place with him?
I do. I think too many people are not talking about that kid. I think he's an absolute stud.
Okay.
All right,
He
Mike.
can catch. He can run. He's got good balance, great hands.
Mhm.
We're going to find out that another pretty confident in St. James that he will be eligible. I hope he is. Well, you were talking about it. If somehow they rule him ineligible, he could be just like Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
And then because he didn't get to play his senior year, I'm not going to say LSU wants that to happen, but it'd probably make it easier to hold on to him and keep him. But coaches know about him. He's a stud.
Yeah.
Harvey Broussard.
Yeah, Justin Broussard, Harvey Broussard. Harvey had a good camp.
Mike, how come the talk is kind of slowed down on Amari and Miller?
I know they're continuing to watch him in recruiting, but he's one that I wanted to go look at their early non-district schedule. Man, that's just so far up there. I'm never going to get up there, and if they're not, depending on what they draw in the playoffs. But
that's a long way up there.
Man, it was him and on the other side, who's the kid that Oak Grove?
Oh yeah, Cam Franklin, I think is his name.
Yeah, it's like, man, you start mapping that out, like thinking you're going to go film that, then you realize that's an hour and a half north of Monroe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They're funneling in sunlight up there.
Oh man!
All right,
That's funny.
Mike. So let me ask you this about the things that, because we talked about recruiting. We started off. The first question was about the panicking. We've been able to see what Jay Johnson's been able to do with the portal, with NIL, with the backing of boosters. I think that should be a message to fans. But I guess the talent he's brought in, is this the most talented team in any sport?
Man, what was Todd Walker saying a day or two ago? It's going to be LSU in the Vols for to play for it all next year. Man, look, Jay Johnson is a workaholic, man. He's burning the midnight oil, and for what he's done in the portal, and then going and stealing the Twins pitching coach when they're in first place. That was
big.
And more coming.
It's never been seen.
And is there going to be a deal where we're going to sit there and watch that draft, and there's some kids that normally you would think are gone because of their draft spot, where all of a sudden they're not gone because of NIL deals?
Yeah. I mean, he could potentially have like 7 first-round picks, on his team with Dylan Cruz and Tommy Tanks and some the pitchers he brought in, plus some of those high school guys. If they don't go pro, if they make it to campus, next year's team could have potentially 7, 8 first-round picks. That's a talented team, man.
But as far as the high school kids, I wonder if major league teams realize, hey, if we really covered that guy, we better take him earlier than we want because he's committed to LSU. And the NIL stuff that they're doing over there, they're going to compete with us at that round.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Mike, it's been fantastic having you on. If you don't know, we all treasure, having you here. It's been an honor. Do you have any professional advice for the Golden Boot?
Man, y'all just keep doing it, man. I love what y'all do. I've been watching y'all for weeks since y'all got started. Obviously, y'all are real active in the Twitter spaces, and it's a new frontier, man. It's with YouTube and Facebook Live, and everybody's got a voice. And if you do a good show and you got good production value, people are going to find you. If you got good opinions, and you bring on guests, and you don't need a 10,000 watt tower to reach people now.
Yeah.
And so people can talk LSU sports on the hour, every hour. Yeah. So there's room for everybody, and so. I enjoy being with you guys, and I'm glad y'all invited me.
Hey, so you say keep Daniel? Okay, all right.
Keep Daniel.
We tried that.
Man, is Daniel y'all's whipping boy? I mean, y'all keep.
Daniel is.
Why does Daniel get all the grief?
He's the Preston of the guy of our show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw Preston posted today. He was playing golf somewhere, and I'm like, man, I would so kill to see a video of his swing.
Yeah, listen, we
Hey,
love
you know
Daniel.
what?
Daniel
Hey.
is the best little brother that asks all the wrong questions.
The little brother. The little brother.
Yeah.
You know what? I play my role, Mike. No ego. You know, you want this to work. But man, I appreciate you
You ain't got
coming
an
on.
ego, but you got the big head.
All right, guys.
Man, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you for
Yo,
coming.
All right,
keep
man.
my
Y'all all
profession.
have a happy 4th and be safe.
You
All right,
too,
Thank you.
Mike. Thank
Appreciate
you.
Uh-huh,
it.
man. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Mike Scarborough of TigerBait.com. Go check out TigerBait.com, subscribe, and get all the inside news on all your recruits.